Welcome back to the deep dive. I was staring at the research pile for today's session, and I realized we have a bit of a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Usually, when we look at a celebrity career, there's a trajectory. It's a
Right.
pretty straight line. You have the rise, you have the peak, maybe the fall, and then, the redemption. It's neat.
It's a narrative. It makes sense.
Exactly. It makes sense.
And today is not neat.
Yeah.
Not even close.
No. Today, we are looking at a file that looks like someone took 5 different puzzles, like completely different genres, and just jam the pieces together until they somehow fit. We're talking about a woman who started as a stripper in South Philadelphia, became the face of high fashion luxury for Louis Vuitton, wrote a book on financial literacy,
Right.
marched in the streets for feminism, made 7 figures a month on OnlyFans, and then, and this is the plot twist that I think gave everyone whiplash, ended up on stage at the 2024 Republican National Convention.
It really is the ultimate test case for this show, isn't it? You're talking about Amber Rose.
We are.
And you're right. If you just look at the headlines, it looks like chaos. It looks like hypocrisy. That's the word that keeps popping up in all the op-eds. Hypocrisy.
That's it.
How does the SlutWalk organizer endorse the conservative ticket? It doesn't compute.
Right. And the easy thing to do, the lazy thing, is to just look at the buzz cut, the sunglasses, and the paparazzi photos and think you know the whole story.
Right.
Oh, she's famous for being famous.
Mhm.
But when you actually dig into the source material, her biography, her business moves, her own words from interviews and podcasts, you realize that looking past the image is the whole point.
That is the mission for this deep dive. It has to be. We want to unpack the life of Amber Rose Levonchuck. We're going to trace that line from the struggles of South Philadelphia all the way to the stage of the RNC. And I think the aha moment we're looking for here isn't just about fame. It's about agency.
Agency, explain that.
Yes. It's about how someone takes a deck of cards that was just stacked against them and learns to play the game better than the people who invented it. It's about someone who realized very, very early on that in the economy of attention, you're either the player or you're the chips. And Amber Rose decided she was never, ever going to be the chips.
I love that analogy. Player or the chips. So let's see how she learned to play. We have to start at the very beginning, right before the fame, before the sunglasses.
Way before.
We're in South Philadelphia, and South Philly isn't just a geographical location, it's a specific vibe, isn't it?
It is. It's a character in the story. We're talking early 80s. She was born in 1983. And South Philadelphia is this very distinct, gritty, working-class environment. It's a melting pot for sure, but it can also be very tribal. And right away, we have to look at the demographics because they shape her entire identity. Amber has a very specific multi-ethnic background. Her father, Michael Levonchuck, is of Irish and Italian descent. Her mother, Dorothy Rose, is of Cape Verdean descent.
Okay, so for those who might not know, Cape Verde is off the coast of West Africa, but there's a heavy Portuguese influence there historically.
Correct. So she grows up with this very specific look. And she often talks about not fitting into a clear box racially while she was growing up.
I can imagine.
Yeah, she wasn't black enough for some, not white enough for others. She was sort of in this ambiguous space. But the defining factor of her childhood wasn't just race. It was economics.
Okay.
The sources all point to one major turning point early on, the divorce of her parents.
This feels like a classic catalyst in a lot of these stories, the fracture in the home.
It was a fracture, but it was also an economic cliff.
Yeah.
I mean, her mother was quite young when she had Amber. She was only 23, and her father was just 19.
Wow, kids.
Basically kids.
Mm-hmm.
And when they split, her mother ended up with a stepfather.
Wow.
And the descriptions of this period, they're heavy. We aren't just talking about a blended family. The sources describe the stepfather as an alcoholic.
Oh.
And suddenly, the family's financial stability it evaporated.
So they went from just getting by to pure survival mode.
Precisely. And this is where we see the hustle start. I think a lot of people have this assumption that people enter the adult entertainment industry because they're wild or they're rebellious or they just want quick cash for luxury items.
Right, for bags and shoes.
Yeah, exactly. But for Rose, the source material makes it crystal clear. This was about keeping the lights on. It was about feeding her family.
And she started stripping at age 15. She used the pseudonym Paris. I have to pause there. 15.
15.
That's a sophomore in high school. I mean, that's a child.
It is a child. But she became a primary provider while she was still essentially a child. And here's where we get a glimpse of that player versus chips mentality really starting to form.
Okay.
There's a really intense detail that came up in our research from her appearances on podcasts like The Red Pill and Club Shay Shay. She admitted that before she fully committed to dancing, she actually attempted to sell crack cocaine.
Whoa. Okay. That's a heavy admission.
It's a startling admission. But listen to why she stopped. This is the crucial part. She didn't stop because a priest told her to. She didn't stop because she got caught.
So what was it?
She told the interviewer she found it too risky.
That's fascinating. Because let's be honest, stripping at 15 is incredibly risky. But in her mind, the drug trade was a bridge too far.
It shows this very pragmatic, almost cold risk assessment capability. At 15 years old, she looked at the drug trade, the violence, the prison sentences, the total volatility, and then she looked at the strip club.
And did the math.
And she calculated that the club was the safer bet to get the money her family needed to survive. She made a business decision.
She was doing a cost-benefit analysis on her own survival at age 15.
Exactly. And that hustle muscle, that ability to look at a dangerous or unstable situation and figure out how to extract value from it without getting destroyed, that defines her entire career. When you have to carry the weight of your family's economic survival on your shoulders before you could even legally drive a car, that shapes how you view money and opportunity forever.
It's a different kind of education.
A very different kind.
So she's working under the name Paris, grinding it out in Philadelphia. But let's be real, there are thousands of women working in clubs in Philly, New York, Atlanta. Most of them do not become global icons.
Not even close.
So how does she get from South Philly to being one of the most recognizable faces on the planet?
The catalyst was a music video. But to understand why this video worked, we have to look at the cultural landscape of 2008.
Okay, paint the picture for us. Where were we in '08?
So in 2008, hip-hop was just dominating the charts. It was the center of pop culture. And within that ecosystem, you had this very specific archetype, the video vixen.
That term, it feels a bit dated now, doesn't it? But it was a legitimate career path back then.
Very much so. It was a whole industry. You had women like Carrie Steffens or Melissa Ford who are famous, like truly famous, strictly for being the it girl in music videos.
Oh, yeah.
But usually the vixen is a prop, let's be honest. She's window dressing. She's there to look beautiful, usually with a very specific aesthetic, long weaves, big curls, hyper feminine in a very traditional sense.
She's there to make the rapper look rich and desirable.
Right. She's the accessory. She's part of the set design.
Okay.
Amber Rose enters this world in 2008. She gets cast in the video for Young Jeezy's Put On, which was a huge song, and it featured Kanye West. But she does something the other girls weren't doing. She completely disrupts the aesthetic.
A buzz cut.
The buzz cut.
Mm-hmm.
A bald woman in a hip-hop video in 2008. That was shocking.
Yeah, it really was.
It was aggressive. It looked punk. It didn't fit.
And it's hard to overstate how risky that was, right? If your entire income, your entire brand depends on your looks, and you shave your head, you are essentially betting that your face structure is strong enough to carry the whole brand without the safety net of traditional hair.
It was a massive bet, a huge gamble, and it paid off spectacularly. Because Kanye West, who we know loves to position himself as an art world disruptor, saw her. And didn't just see another pretty girl.
He saw something different.
He saw a muse. He saw a walking art piece. And this kicks off what we call the Kanye era from 2008 to 2010.
Now, this is where the cynics will say, oh, she just dated Kanye, that's why she's famous. But that just completely ignores the work she did during that time. She wasn't just, hiding in his house.
That is such a lazy take. It's so reductive. Plenty of women date famous rappers, and then they just disappear 6 months later.
Right.
Amber Rose didn't disappear. She leveraged. She built. And the key piece of evidence here, the thing that changed everything, is the Louis Vuitton print advertisement.
This was for Kanye's sneaker line with LV, right?
Yes, the Dawn sneakers. But think about what Louis Vuitton represents. That's blue chip luxury. That's Paris, Milan, old money establishment fashion.
It's the pinnacle.
It is. For a woman who started as Paris in a Philly strip club to be featured in a global campaign for Louis Vuitton, that legitimized her in the high fashion world in a way that music videos alone generally do not. It was a different kind of stamp.
She crossed over.
She completely crossed over. She then walked the runway at New York Fashion Week for the brand Celestino. And she signed with Ford Models from 2009 to 2010.
Ford is a major agency. That's not a small thing.
That is a major legitimate legacy agency. She managed to be the video vixen who was also the high fashion model. That duality is so rare. Usually the fashion world looks down on the urban modeling world.
There's a snobbery there.
A huge snobbery. Amber forced them to coexist in the same person.
She became a logo, essentially. You could draw a stick figure with sunglasses and a bald head, and people would know immediately it was Amber Rose. That is branding 101.
It's a unique selling proposition. In a sea of long, flowing hair, she was the silhouette you couldn't miss. She was instantly iconic.
But fame is fleeting. And being the it girl has an expiration date, right? And usually when that high-profile relationship ends, the fame just evaporates.
Poof, gone.
Her relationship with Kanye ended in 2010, but she didn't go away. Not at all.
No. And this brings us to the business of being Amber. She didn't just ride the wave, she built a boat. She diversified so aggressively. And this is where the person listening to this should really pay attention. She refused to be pigeonholed.
Okay, so let's run through the resume because it is all over the map. She pivots to television.
Yes, reality TV. It acts as a kind of relevance engine. It just keeps your name in the press, keeps you in the public eye. She did Running Russell Simmons. She was a guest judge on RuPaul's Drag Race. She was a judge on a DJ show called Master of the Mix.
And she actually competed on Dancing with the Stars in 2016.
Right, partnered with Maxine Tremakovsky. She finished 9th. Now, you might hear 9th place and think, who cares?
Yeah, not a winner.
But Dancing with the Stars is a very specific type of mainstream validation. It puts you in living rooms with grandmothers in middle America who have never, ever seen a Young Jeezy video. It broadens the demographic immensely.
It softens the image. It makes you safe.
Exactly. It makes her a celebrity, not just a hip-hop personality. She also tried her hand at hosting. She had the Amber Rose Show on VH1, and maybe even more significantly, she hosted the syndicated radio show Loveline.
Loveline is huge. That's a legacy franchise. Dr. Drew's show. Taking over that seat suggests a real pivot toward advice, toward relationships and sexuality, which, becomes a major theme for her later on.
100%. And we can't ignore the endorsements. She wasn't just wearing clothes. She was selling products. She was selling vodka.
Oh, yes, Smirnoff.
Smirnoff.
Yeah.
She was the spokesperson for their whipped cream and fluffed marshmallow flavors back in 2011. Again, just maximizing the moment, turning visibility into cash.
But I think the most interesting business moves are the ones where she creates her own IP, her own intellectual property.
You're talking about the tech stuff. The tech stuff. In 2016, she launched Movemoji.
Oh, I remember this era. It was right after Kim Kardashian had the Kimoji app, and suddenly every celebrity needed an emoji app.
Exactly. It was a gold rush,
Yeah.
a digital gold rush. And Movemoji had 900 curated icons.
900.
900. It sounds trivial now, maybe.
Yeah.
But celebrity emoji apps were a massive revenue stream at that time. It shows she was watching the tech trends. She wasn't just waiting for the phone to ring for a modeling gig. She was building digital assets.
And she also became an author. Simon & Schuster published How to Be a Bad Bitch, and I love that title because it's so provocative, but the content was actually like practical advice.
And look at the cover. It was shot by David LaChapelle.
No way.
Yes. That's high art, meeting self-help. The book covered finances, career, love, fashion. It was her claiming the role of mentor. She was saying, look, I made it out of the struggle, and here is the blueprint.
But the biggest financial pivot, and this is the one where we really need to dig into the numbers, came later. In 2020, she joined OnlyFans.
This is, without a doubt, the most critical business chapter in her modern career. We have to understand the shift here, the power dynamic. For years, the model was Amber poses for a magazine, the magazine sells ads, the magazine keeps most of the profit, and Amber gets a flat fee.
Or Amber posts on Instagram, Instagram gets the data and all the ad revenue, and Amber gets likes.
OnlyFans changed the entire equation.
Yeah.
It's the creator economy in its purest form. It's direct-to-consumer. It's a paywall for intimacy. And for someone like Amber, whose brand has always been about hypersexuality and body ownership, it was a no-brainer.
It felt inevitable.
It did, but the numbers are just staggering.
Okay, we have data from October 2024. What are we looking at?
In that single month, sources indicate she earned over $1.1 million.
$1.1 million in 30 days.
In 1 month.
That is more than most A-list actors make for a generic endorsement deal that takes months to negotiate with lawyers and agents and everyone else.
And here is the genius of it. It's a recurring revenue model. It's a subscription. So it stabilizes the inquiry volatility that is just inherent to being a celebrity.
That's a great point.
If you're an actor, you don't know when your next movie is. If you have 100,000 subscribers paying you a monthly fee, you can predict your cash flow. You can build a real sustainable business on that foundation.
It connects right back to that survival instinct in Philly, doesn't it? It's almost full circle.
How so?
Well, she started as Paris in the club, dancing for individual tips from individual people. Now she's doing it digitally at a global scale, keeping nearly 80% of the revenue, and she never has to leave her house.
It's the ultimate efficiency. She cut out the middleman, the club owner, the magazine editor, the TV producer. They're all gone. It's just Amber and the audience. It is financial independence through body autonomy.
Speaking of body autonomy, that is the perfect bridge to her activism, because while she was building this, business empire, she was also becoming a very loud, very public voice for feminism, but not the corporate lean-in kind of feminism. This was something grittier.
This is the chapter that usually surprises people who only know the headlines, who only know the Kanye stuff. In 2015, she founded the Los Angeles chapter of the SlutWalk.
Unpack that for us. For the listener who might just hear that name, SlutWalk, and just recoil, what is it?
It's a movement that actually began in Toronto, but Amber really amplified it and brought it to the mainstream in LA. The mission is to honor women who have been judged, demeaned, or assaulted for their sexual behavior or for how they dress.
So it's a protest against victim blaming.
Exactly. The core idea is, my clothes are not my consent. It's that simple and that radical.
She promoted it with this viral video from Funny or Die called The Walk of No Shame. I remember it was actually really clever. She's walking down the street the morning after, but instead of judging her, everyone is high-fiving her and cheering.
Right, it flips the script. But the motivation behind this wasn't just a sketch comedy bit. It wasn't just for laughs. No. And this is where the story gets very dark, but it's so important to understand the why. During the first SlutWalk and in interviews after, she opened up about a traumatic incident from her own childhood. This wasn't PR. This was deeply personal.
This is the 7 Minutes in Heaven story. It's really difficult to hear.
It is. She spoke about being 14 years old, just a kid. She was playing that game with a male classmate. They go into a closet. And she says he exposed himself, tricked her into kneeling down, and then threw the door open to the whole party.
To imply that she was performing oral sex on him?
Yes. To frame her. To humiliate her in front of everyone.
That is just horrific at 14, to be set up like that.
It is. And the aftermath was relentless bullying. She was branded with these derogatory labels in her neighborhood. Slut, whore. She said she carried that trauma into her adulthood.
So the SlutWalk was her way of taking those words back.
Precisely. It is reclaiming this slur. It's the ultimate act of defiance. If you call me a slut to hurt me, I'm going to take that word, I'm going to put it on a banner, and I'm going to march down the street with thousands of other women to strip it of its power. It connects her past trauma directly to her present advocacy.
It creates this fascinating friction, though, doesn't it? You have a woman who is a former stripper who is actively monetizing her sexuality on OnlyFans, leading a feminist march. A lot of traditional feminists didn't know what to do with her.
There was definitely friction, a lot of debate, but Amber's argument was always about choice. Feminism, to her, isn't about covering up or acting a certain way. It's about the right to do whatever you want with your body without being assaulted or judged for it. It's a very modern, sex-positive feminism that challenges a lot of older ideas.
No, we can't talk about Amber Rose without talking about the relationships. Her romantic life has been very public, and often it's the thing that drives the news cycle about her. But I want to look at this through the lens of how she manages that narrative.
It's true. Her relationships are a huge part of her public story. We mentioned Kanye West. That was the breakout relationship that put her on the map. But her history is extensive and very high profile. She married the rapper Wiz Khalifa in 2013.
Right. They had a son together, Sebastian, and they filed for divorce in 2014. That seemed like a real public heartbreak for her at the time.
It did appear so. And initially she sought full custody, but they eventually settled on joint custody. And what's interesting is they also collaborated artistically. She released singles with him. She rapped on his album.
And look at how they interact now.
It's remarkable. They have maintained this very visible, very mature co-parenting relationship. You see them at games together on social media. It's a very modern family structure.
Then after Wiz, there was 21 Savage.
Yeah, they dated from 2017 to 2018.
And then Alexander A.E. Edwards.
That relationship started in 2018. They share a son named Slash, who was born in 2019.
But her dating history isn't just a list of famous rappers. I mean, she has dated Machine Gun Kelly, the NBA player Terrence Ross. And she's been very, very open about the fact that her attraction isn't limited by gender.
This is such a crucial part of her identity that often gets erased because her most famous partners have been men.
Right.
But she has been open about her fluid sexuality since at least 2009. There's a quote where she says, "I can be in love with a woman, I can be in love with a man." It was very direct, very early in her career.
And on her podcast, she even mentioned dating a trans man.
Which, again, just challenges the box people constantly try to put her in. She is so often framed as the rapper's girlfriend, which implies this very heteronormative, almost subservient role.
Yeah, the assessor.
The accessory again.
Yeah.
But her actual lived experience is so much more fluid and complex.
Yeah.
She refuses to be defined solely by the men she dates, even though those men are often the catalyst for the media attention she receives.
It seems like she uses the spotlight from their relationship to illuminate her own projects. It's symbiotic.
It is. She enters the orbit of a star, absorbs some of that gravity and light, and then spins off into her own solar system with her own planets.
Okay, now we have to get to the twist. The big one. The plot twist that I don't think anyone, and I mean anyone, saw coming.
I know where you're going.
We need to talk about the political pivot.
The 2024 election cycle.
But before we get to the RNC stage, we have to establish the baseline. Because everything we just discussed, the feminist SlutWalk, the LGBTQ advocacy, the fluid sexuality, being a woman of color, it all points to a very specific political demographic.
It points squarely to the left. Progressive.
Yeah.
Liberal Democrat. And in 2016, that's exactly where she was. She is on record calling Donald Trump an idiot.
Not subtle.
Not subtle at all. She said, quote, "I really hope he's not president."
It was unequivocal. There was no ambiguity.
She is a feminist, an LGBTQ advocate, and she identifies as an atheist. It all seemed to align perfectly with the anti-Trump resistance.
It was a perfect fit. And then you fast forward 8 years to 2024, and it's a complete 180-degree turn.
A hard right turn. In May 2024, she endorses Donald Trump. But she doesn't just tweet about it from her couch. In July 2024, she speaks on stage at the Republican National Convention.
I remember seeing the clips. It was surreal. The crowd was cheering for her. And this is the same crowd that, in theory, opposes a lot of what her entire career stands for. How does that happen?
This is the part that breaks people's brains. It creates this huge cognitive dissonance. But if you listen to her explanation, the one she's given in interviews, she uses a very specific phrase. She says, "I realized the media lied to me."
That's a classic red pill talking point. That's the language.
It is. And to understand the mechanism of this shift, we need to look at who she was talking to and hanging out with in the years leading up to this. She started doing the rounds on the so-called Manosphere podcast.
Oh, okay.
Shows like The Red Pill, Fresh and Fit, Club Shay.
So she entered an information ecosystem that is, by its nature, very critical of mainstream media, very critical of modern feminism, and very open to Trump's messaging.
Exactly. It wasn't an overnight switch. You can trace it. It was a gradual absorption of a new information ecosystem. She was engaging with these creators, listening to their arguments, and finding resonance there. She felt they were being more honest with her.
But there's also a contrarian streak in her, right? A rebellious nature.
Oh, a huge one. Amber Rose hates being told what to do. It might be her defining characteristic. So if the liberal Hollywood establishment tells her, "You must vote this way because you are a woman of color and you are a feminist and this is your team,"
her instinct is to do the opposite.
Her instinct, going all the way back to shaving her head when everyone said she needed long hair, is to say, "Don't tell me what to do. Don't put me in your box."
It's the ultimate punk move, in a way, to be the one person nobody expects you to be, even if it alienates your original fan base.
She traded one audience for another, and remember our player versus chips analogy. By speaking at the RNC, she was the headline for a week.
She dominated the news cycle.
She was trending globally. In the attention economy, that is a win. Regardless of the political fallout or the criticism, she made herself the center of the conversation.
It just highlights that she really, truly refuses to fit into any single box. An atheist, former stripper, feminist activist, OnlyFans creator speaking at the Republican National Convention. It breaks every single stereotype of political demographic.
It does. It just shatters them. But if we look at her history, from Paris, the stripper, to the buzz cut in the Louis Vuitton ad, she has always zigged when people expected her to zag. She seems to thrive on being the anomaly.
So where does this leave us? We've walked through South Philly, the high fashion runways, the tech world, the slut walks, and now the political stage. What's the final picture?
I think we're left with a portrait of a woman who is, above all else, a survivor and a master of adaptation.
She converts visibility into opportunity. That seems to be the golden thread that runs through everything.
It is. Whether she is being praised or criticized, she is being seen. And she knows, better than almost anyone, how to monetize that sight. She controls her narrative, even when that narrative shifts so drastically it gives you whiplash.
It really challenges this modern idea that a personal brand has to be consistent. We're taught that brands must be on message, right? They have to be predictable.
Exactly. We're taught that brands must be consistent to build trust. Amber Rose proves that a brand can be messy, it can be contradictory, it can be radically volatile, and still be incredibly successful.
So here's the provocative thought to leave you with today. In a world where most celebrities hire teams of PR consultants to curate this perfect, polished, safe image, is Amber Rose's willingness to be messy, to pivot from calling someone an idiot to endorsing them, to be a mother and an OnlyFans creator, is that, in a weird way, the most authentic brand of all?
And regarding her recent shifts, the politics, the business moves, is this the final form of Amber Rose? Or are we just watching the season finale of this current era with a whole new reinvention coming in the next one?
Knowing her history and that deep-seated survival instinct, I would not bet against another reinvention.
I wouldn't either. Not for a second.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.